The evening news droned softly in the background, a comfortable murmur that wrapped around me like an old blanket. I was settled deep into my green velvet armchair, the one I'd bought with my very first Social Security check after my husband passed away 15 years ago. That chair had become my quiet sanctuary in a house that no longer felt entirely mine. Fresh coffee steamed gently on the end table, cooling to the perfect temperature, while the kitchen carried the sweet, comforting scent of peach cobbler slowly baking in the oven. The light was low and golden, my joints had finally eased after a long day, and for once, I wasn't rushing to serve anyone. This was my hour, my sacred, silent time to simply breathe and exist. Then the front door slammed open with the force of a thunderstorm breaking inside the house. I didn't need to look up. I knew those heavy, impatient footsteps. Derek, my son-in-law, stormed into the family room like he had purchased the deed himself. Behind him trailed my daughter, Lena, arms weighed down with shopping bags, shoulders curved inward, eyes glued to the floor as if she were trying to disappear into the hardwood. She always walked like that now, apologizing for taking up space in her own mother's home. Derek planted himself directly in front of the television, completely blocking my view. He let out that familiar, dismissive snort he reserved especially for moments when he caught me doing nothing. Without a single glance in my direction, he reached down, snatched the remote from the arm of my chair, and hit the power button. The screen went dark instantly. "Go to your room, old woman," he barked, voice dripping with contempt. "I've got the game on tonight. This living room is mine now." The silence that crashed down afterward was thicker and heavier than any shout could ever be. I could hear his short, arrogant breaths filling the room, as if his cruel words had just purchased permanent ownership. Slowly, deliberately, I shifted my gaze toward Lena. She stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, knuckles bone-white around the bag handles. For one brief second, our eyes met. I waited for the simplest, most natural thing in the world, for my own daughter to say, "Don't you dare speak to my mother like that. This is her house." But Lena dropped her eyes and began fumbling unnecessarily with one of the bags, pretending something inside had shifted out of place. That tiny gesture hurt far worse than Derek's yelling ever could. His cruelty was loud, predictable, and ugly. Her silence was pure betrayal. A cold, crystal-clear calm washed over me. Not explosive anger, not humiliation, just an icy, razor-sharp sobriety. 35 years working at the county recorder's office had drilled one unbreakable truth into me. Words disappear the moment they're spoken, but documents last forever. I rose from my chair slowly. My knees gave their familiar dry click in the heavy quiet, the sound ringing like an official seal on a final decision. Derek was already sprawling across my couch, unbuttoning the top of his shirt, grabbing a soda from my fridge without even acknowledging my existence. In his world, I had long ago been reduced to background furniture, something to shove aside when inconvenient. I walked past him without a word and entered my bedroom. Not to hide, not to weep like they probably expected. I opened the bottom drawer of my dresser and pulled out a stiff leather bank pouch. From the very bottom, secured with a thick blue rubber band, I retrieved a folder of papers yellowed at the edges but still completely valid. The original bill of sale and the current deed of title. Owner: Celeste M. Everson. Sole owner. I caught my reflection in the mirror. Short silver-grey hair, glasses hanging on a delicate chain, simple linen trousers, navy blouse. I looked exactly like the harmless, cookie-baking grandma everyone assumed me to be. And that harmless appearance had always been my greatest weapon. As long as I kept feeding the wolves, they believed they ruled the forest. The moment I stopped, their fangs turned to jelly. I returned to the family room. Derek had already turned the volume on his sports channel up so loud the walls vibrated. Lena clattered dishes in the kitchen, choosing voluntary silence over defending her own mother. I walked straight toward the front door. My low heels clicked deliberately on the hardwood floor, each step measured and final. Derek glanced over, smirked, and raised his soda can in a mocking toast. "Taking a little stroll, Celeste? Try not to get lost, at your age." I didn't answer. I turned the deadbolt, stepped outside, and closed the door behind me with a quiet but firm click, like placing a full stop at the end of a very long, exhausting chapter. The night air was crisp and clean against my skin. For the first time in years, I felt truly awake, alive in a way I hadn't been since the day they moved in. I locked the front gate from the outside, walked calmly to the avenue, and hailed a waiting cab. "Where to, the driver asked. "The Grand Hyatt downtown," I replied, voice steady. In the back seat, I pulled out my phone. My fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the electric surge of power finally returning to my hands. I scrolled through contacts to a name I hadn't dialed in years but knew would answer: Andrew V. Sterling, attorney at law. We had worked near each other for decades. He handled property disputes, I processed deeds. He understood the weight of a signature better than most people understood their own names. The phone rang twice. Celeste. His voice carried surprise but genuine warmth. "It's nearly 9 o'clock. Is everything all right?" "I woke up tonight," I said quietly, watching city lights streak past the window. "And I need your help." He listened without interruption as I told him everything. When I finished, there was only a brief pause on the line. "So you want to evict 2 tenants," he summarized calmly. "Your own daughter and son-in-law." "Exactly. They've lived here rent-free for 4 years. No lease. All expenses on me." "Tonight," he yelled, "old woman, this living room is mine now." And my daughter stood there silent. "I hear moral abuse loud and clear," Andrew said softly. "But you don't need pity, you need the law on your side. The house is solely in my name. I want a formal notice to quit. Personal service tomorrow morning. I'll send my junior associate, Roman Cruz, first thing. His professional, sharp suit, no drama. 30 days is standard. Add a clear warning," I instructed. 24 hours to understand the new reality. And upon vacating, they will be billed for back rent and penalties for holding over. Consider it done. You sound very determined. "I'm wounded," I corrected him. "And a wounded woman who knows her rights is dangerous." The cab pulled up to the glowing entrance of the Grand Hyatt. The doorman opened my door with real courtesy, more genuine respect than Derek had shown me in the last decade. "I only have my purse," I told him with a small, private smile, "and the dignity I just reclaimed." My suite smelled of fresh lavender and crisp linens. A large flat-screen TV faced the king bed. I turned it on, chose my favorite news channel, and adjusted the volume exactly to my liking. No one would dare snatch the remote tonight. I ordered room service soup and a glass of Cabernet. I ate slowly, thoughtfully, tasting every bite. My mind was back at the house, but now those thoughts belonged entirely to me, clear, unhurried, powerful. I knew their morning routine by heart. Derek always slept late and woke up grouchy. Lena fluttered around trying to smooth his rough edges. Tomorrow morning, a confident, professional knock would echo through my front door. This wouldn't be a friendly visit for tea. This would be the law arriving, precise, unstoppable, and long overdue. I fell asleep quickly and deeply, like a woman who had finally seized the wheel of her own life. And that harmless appearance had always been my greatest weapon. As long as I kept feeding the wolves, they believed they ruled the forest. The moment I stopped, their fangs turned to jelly. I returned to the family room. Derek had already turned the volume on his sports channel up so loud the walls vibrated. Lena. Morning sunlight filtered gently through the hotel curtains, waking me without an alarm. My posture felt different as I sat up, straighter, taller, as though an invisible burden had been lifted overnight. I showered slowly, dressed in the same clothes from yesterday, but carried myself like a woman with a clear mission. By 8 o'clock sharp, I was seated in Andrew Sterling's quiet, professional office. The documents were already prepared on his wide oak desk: formal notice to quit, termination of gratuitous use of property, demand to vacate within 30 days, and attached inventory list. I signed each page with the same steady hand that had processed thousands of deeds over 35 years. Roman Cruz, tall, impeccably suited, early 30s, nodded politely as Andrew handed him the sealed envelope and a slim leather briefcase. "He'll be at your front gate in 20 minutes, Andrew assured me. "I'll wait here," I replied, settling into the comfortable reception area with a cup of caramel-scented coffee from the machine. The wall clock ticked steadily forward. Somewhere across town, in my family room, A very different clock was about to start counting down. At exactly 9:30, my phone vibrated against my knee. Lena's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 3 full times before swiping to answer. Mama. Mama, for heaven's sake. Her voice was a high-pitched shriek of panic. There's a man here, Roman, with official papers. Derek is screaming at him. What is going on? Where are you? I held the phone slightly away from my ear as Derek's muffled shouting leaked through the background like ugly static. Roman is the attorney's junior associate, I said calmly, voice even and unshaken. Ask your husband to lower his voice immediately. Take the notice, read it aloud to him, and tell him the old woman is unavailable for screaming today. But it says eviction notice. 30 days. Mama, have you completely lost your mind? For the first time in many years, Lena, I am completely and perfectly sane. Read the document carefully. Do exactly what it says. The fewer screams, the smoother everything will go. I ended the call with a soft press of the red button. The silence that returned felt as satisfying as turning off an annoying light in the middle of the night. Andrew peeked out from his office door, glasses perched on his nose. Daughter. I nodded once. The performance opened right on schedule. He gave a small, knowing smile. Roman just confirmed successful service. Signatures obtained for receipt. Full inventory photographed and attached. Now the waiting begins. I spent the next quiet hours reflecting deeply. For 4 long years, I had slowly shrunk myself inside my own home just to avoid disturbing their moods. I ate the burned edges of pies and casseroles, quietly leaving the perfect centerpieces for the self-proclaimed king of the living room. I watched my favorite shows wearing headphones so I wouldn't interrupt Derek's endless work calls. I paid triple utility bills every month and never uttered a word of complaint. From my purse, I pulled out folded printouts, my pension statements, lifetime investment accounts, bank transfer records showing the large down payment I gifted them for their black crossover SUV, plus countless emergency top-ups when their own bills nearly bounced. The numbers stood in neat rows like loyal soldiers. Those numbers meant financial independence. They meant I never had to beg, bargain, or bow again. My phone buzzed repeatedly, first Lena texting frantic paragraphs, then Derek, come home right now. Let's talk this out. Please, Mom. I swept every notification away like brushing crumbs off a table. Andrew returned with an offer of tea. I shook my head. Something else, I said. I need every utility in my name suspended immediately. Fiber internet with the premium sports package, cable TV, landline, and the supplementary credit card in Lena's name. Not cancelled. Just suspended. I'll reactivate them when the house is truly mine again. He raised an eyebrow, impressed. That message will be felt deeply. Yesterday was deep pain, I replied. Today is simply consequence. They are very different things. I opened my small leather notebook and wrote a clean, simple plan on a fresh page. Step 1, legal action, complete. Papers served. Step 2, financial pressure, turn off all taps. Step 3, emotional boundary, silence. No explanations, no justifications, only facts. The phone vibrated again with Lena's desperate, lengthy messages. I left them unread. Is there a good clothing store nearby? I asked Andrew. The Gallery Mall, 2 blocks west. I'm still dressed like the harmless old grandma they expect, I said, meeting his eyes directly. Today I begin setting real boundaries. I need a proper uniform. He chuckled softly. You're dangerous when you're this calm, Celeste. I'm simply returning to who I always was, I replied. I walked briskly to the mall, shoulders back, step confident. Inside the classic department, consultant Jenna greeted me with professional warmth. She quickly pulled dark blue straight-leg trousers, a crisp white cotton blouse, a tailored beige linen blazer, and low-heeled leather pumps. In the fitting room, the new outfit transformed everything, sharpening my posture, my gaze, my entire presence. I folded my old clothes neatly into a shopping bag. Please donate these to the charity box, I told Jenna. Let them serve someone else who needs them. With the new uniform on, I made the necessary calls right from the fitting area ottoman. First, the service provider, all internet, cable, and landline suspended within 2 hours for ongoing repairs. Second, the bank, supplementary card blocked instantly, online limits frozen, SMS alerts rerouted only to my number. My stomach growled, not from hunger, but from adrenaline slowly easing its grip. I went upstairs to a quiet restaurant overlooking the street and ordered mushroom risotto and a glass of dry white wine. I placed my phone face down and ate slowly, tasting every grain, every note of flavor. 10 minutes later, a bank alert flashed. Transaction declined. $85 prime ribeye at the butcher shop. Almost immediately, a text from Derek. The cards aren't working. Call the bank right now. We're at the register. I dialed his number calmly. It's not a malfunction, I said quietly. Both the credit and the trust expired yesterday, right along with your game on my television. I placed the phone face down again and finished my risotto at my own pace. When the check came, I paid with my primary card. Smooth, effortless, like walking through the front door of my own life again. Back at the Grand Hyatt, I slipped off my new shoes, placed my house keys on the nightstand, and napped peacefully for an hour. The landline woke me, reception informing me that my daughter was in the lobby and urgently requesting to come up or for me to come down. Perfect timing for a calm, adult conversation. No midnight hysterics, no shouting. I smoothed my new blazer, adjusted my glasses chain, and took the elevator down. The keys in my purse jingled differently now, like clear bells announcing the return of order. The elevator doors slid open smoothly onto the elegant Grand Hyatt lobby. Lena was pacing anxiously between plush armchairs, her blouse wrinkled, hair escaping its bun in messy strands, dark circles carved beneath her eyes from a sleepless night. When she spotted me stepping out in the sharp beige blazer, straight posture, and confident stride, she froze mid-step as if she had walked straight into a glass wall. "Mama," she whispered, taking one hesitant step forward before stopping again. "Sit down," I said calmly, pointing to a nearby armchair. "We are in a respectable public place. We will speak quietly and calmly." She obeyed instantly, sinking onto the edge of the seat, hands clasped tightly in her lap like a nervous child. "Let's talk like family," she began, switching immediately to that soft, placating tone people use with young children or the very elderly. "Derek just had a really bad day yesterday. He's already texted you an apology. Come home with me now. I'll make your favorite tea. We can sort everything out together." "I am not offended, Lena," I replied evenly, voice steady. "I have simply made a decision. The house is mine, solely mine. You and Derek have lived there rent-free for 4 full years with no lease and no contribution. I am giving you exactly 30 days to vacate. As of today, all utilities are suspended. This is not revenge. This is restoring order." "But he has to work," she suddenly flared, voice rising slightly. "Important calls, deadlines. You're ruining his career and our reputation. Then let him work from a public cafe, a co-working space, or even from his own mother's house," I countered without raising my voice. "The internet, premium cable sports package, and supplementary credit card were paid for exclusively by me. They no longer will be. You are not a life-sustaining necessity in my monthly budget. You have become an optional expense that I have now closed." Her lips trembled. "You're humiliating us in front of everyone," she whispered, eyes filling. "The card failed right at the store checkout today. People stared." "Humiliation is being ordered out of my own family room in my own house," I said quietly but firmly. "It is quietly eating the burned edges of pie while leaving the perfect center for the self-appointed king. It is wearing headphones to watch television so I don't disturb his calls. Today, no one is being humiliated. Today, everyone simply pays their own bills." She tried one last defense. "We were saving money by living with you." "Where is that money, Lena?" I asked directly. 4 years of saved rent, utilities, groceries, nearly $100,000. Where is it? Her gaze slid sideways, shoulders falling. "Derek said it's tied up in investments and business opportunities. He promised he'd show me the accounts later." He will show both of us tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock sharp in Mr. Sterling's office, I said. You are both formally invited. You actually called a lawyer against your own family, she asked, voice breaking. I called the rules into action, I replied. Family means mutual respect, not being told go to your room, old woman, while someone else claims my living room as theirs. Her voice cracked completely. If we have to leave, he says he'll file for divorce. He told me straight out, if he can't have your house and your money, he doesn't want to be with me anymore. Those words stung, not with pity for him, but with cold, painful clarity about the kind of marriage she had accepted. I leaned forward slightly and gently covered her clasped, trembling hands with mine. If your marriage can only survive because of my square footage and my bank account, I said softly, then that isn't true family, Lena. That's a hostage situation, and you are the hostage. She snatched her hands away as if my touch suddenly burned. You've become cruel, she whispered. Old and cruel. I have become an adult, I corrected her calmly. At 68 years old, I am finally acting like one. You are 40. You've had a 28-year head start. Use it. A long silence stretched between us. Around us in the lobby, teacups clinked softly, guests passed with quiet conversations. Someone glanced curiously, then looked away. Just turn the internet back on, she tried one final time, voice small. He won't cope without it, and neither will I. No internet, I said firmly. But your voice still works perfectly. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock at the attorney's office. Today, I choose silence. She stood up slowly, searched my face desperately for any trace of the old softness she was used to manipulating, and found absolutely none. She backed away toward the exit, then turned and left quickly without another word. Only after she disappeared through the revolving doors did I feel the tension finally drain from my body. Not weakness, but simple normalization of breath. I took the stairs back up to my floor for the gentle movement. In my room, I opened my laptop to an email from Andrew. Derek had rashly CC'd company executives in angry emails pressuring me. A formal reprimand was now likely on his work record. I disabled the family location sharing app Derek had installed years ago for my safety. The notification flashed. Geolock access prohibited. My little dot on everyone's map finally belonged only to me again. I spilled my house keys onto the nightstand. The metal jingled warmly, cleanly, like a brand new password to my own life. Outside, city lights began to glow. The air conditioning hummed steadily. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt it deep inside. Order returning, not dramatic victory or wild euphoria, just quiet, solid order. Tomorrow at 10, the conference room would host 3 main players. Derek, Lena, and the unbreakable law. The conference room was cool and professional, air conditioning humming low. I chose to sit at the head of the long table. My right, my decision. Andrew V. Sterling sat to my right, folders neatly aligned, pen placed parallel to the edge. On the table in front of me lay my quiet armor, driver's license, original deed, served notice, inventory photos. The door clicked open. The paralegal murmured, "They are here." Derek stormed in first, his usual arrogant swagger noticeably cracked, shirt wrinkled, tie hanging loose like a defeated noose, dark circles carved deep under his eyes from stress and sleeplessness. Lena followed close behind, clutching her purse against her chest like a shield, eyes fixed on the floor. "Please be seated," Andrew said in his deep, judge-like baritone. Derek yanked out a chair aggressively. "Let's end this ridiculous show right now. We've lived there 4 full years. We have rights." "Rights are precisely why we are gathered here today," I said calmly, pausing just long enough for his anger to echo awkwardly in the room. "The house is solely my property. You have occupied it only through my goodwill. I have formally terminated that goodwill. The notice is right there on the table. Deadline, 30 days. There's something called adverse possession." Derek shot back, words tripping over themselves in rage. "We've openly acted like owners for years." I allowed myself the faintest smile. "I processed property deeds for 35 years, Derek. Adverse possession requires the true owner to be absent, not paying taxes, and not objecting. I have lived there, paid every bill, and now I object, loudly and legally. You are neither owners nor adverse possessors. You are temporary and extremely loud guests. Andrew confirmed smoothly, the notice is legally proper. Service was executed and documented. Upon deadline expiration, a lawsuit will be filed for formal eviction and recovery of fair market value back rent calculated from the date of notice. This is completely illegal. Derek's voice rose again. She cut off our internet, our cable, our credit cards, emotional distress. I'll countersue. Internet and cable are not life-sustaining utilities, Andrew replied without blinking. If you require them, contract and pay for them yourselves. Lena, tell her. Derek jabbed an angry finger toward my daughter. She's destroying our family. Lena blinked rapidly, lips trembling, but said nothing. The silence from her was deafening. I slid a thick folder across the table toward her. Let the paper do the talking. From an inner envelope, I produced printed loan default notices and brokerage statements, margin calls, leveraged trades gone bad, account balance not just zero but deep in deficit. Lena's fingers shook as she took the pages. Her eyes scanned the damning numbers and dates. I watched the exact moment realization hit her. Shoulders slumped, mouth fell open, one heavy tear rolled down her cheek. It's zero, she whispered in shock. Actually worse than zero. Yes, I said softer but still firm. Nothing was ever saved. Only reckless bets, expensive stakes, imported beer, luxury habits, all charged quietly to my credit card. I would have turned it around. Derek erupted again. The market was about to rebound. I just needed one more cash infusion. So that's why you needed my living room so desperately? I asked, raising an eyebrow. To lose even more loudly while ordering me to my room. His fists clenched on the table, anger undercut by visible fear. I'm your son-in-law, he forced out through gritted teeth. Family is supposed to help family. Family offers respect and healthy boundaries, I replied evenly. You offered neither. Therefore, you will receive neither. I stood up slowly. The simple movement caused everyone else to straighten instinctively. Final terms, I stated clearly, clipping each word for emphasis. 30 days to fully vacate. No restoration of utilities or credit cards. Any screaming or threats when I visit to retrieve personal items will result in an immediate police report for harassment. Consider how job recruiters, and your current employer, might view that on top of your existing corporate reprimand. Derek deflated visibly in his chair, as if someone had loosened all his internal screws at once. Lena covered her face with both hands. The low hum of the air conditioning suddenly became the loudest sound in the room. One final thing, I said, turning directly to my daughter. Over these 30 days, you have a clear choice. Continue drowning alongside a man who lied and dragged you down, or swim to the surface alone. I am your mother, but I am no longer a free bank or unlimited cafeteria. I gathered my papers neatly into the folder. Andrew stood as well. This meeting is concluded, he announced. All further contact will be in writing through Roman. I walked around the table. Passing Derek, I paused for half a step. You can press the remote control of your own life as often as you like, I said quietly, but it no longer works on my house, or on me. In the hallway, the lighting felt warmer, the air cleaner. The elevator chimed softly. My phone vibrated. Lena calling. I took 3 slow, deep breaths, then answered. Mama, her voice was low and shaky, traffic noise faint in the background. I didn't get in his car. He's still in the parking lot screaming and hitting the steering wheel. I just walked away. Good, I said calmly. Keep walking. Breathe deeply. Do not rush back to a place where screams are waiting for you. He says you broke our family. Unplugged internet does not break a family, Lena. Lies, gambling, and screaming do. Silence stretched, then barely audible. Thank you, Mama. It hurts terribly, but for the first time, I can see clearly. Seeing clearly is always the first step, I replied. Can you come alone tomorrow at 10 to Mr. Sterling's office? I can, she whispered. We ended the call. I hailed a cab to a quiet riverfront restaurant. Clam chowder, fresh salad, glass of chilled white wine. Phone face down on the table. I ate slowly, tasting everything, fully present as mistress of my own time. Bank alerts confirmed. Protective transfers complete. Supplementary cards permanently closed. Life insurance beneficiary updated. Email from Andrew. Roman scheduled for day 30 handover at 8 a.m. sharp. I finished my wine to the last drop, like closing the final page of an exhausting chapter. Walking along the river afterward, watching sunlight dance on the water, I caught my reflection in a shop window. Same face, but eyes brighter, posture stronger. Not a victim, not a dramatic hero, just a grown woman finally living on her own terms. Day 30 arrived soft and bright, sunlight even and calm like fresh paper waiting for a signature. I breakfasted leisurely in the hotel cafe, oatmeal, good coffee, glass of water, then drove out of the city to a peaceful spa retreat. I would not be present to witness any final scenes. Roman called promptly at 8. I'm at the gates. Moving truck just arrived. They're beginning to load. Proceed strictly according to the inventory list, I instructed. I'm available by phone if needed. At 11, another update. Derek raised his voice briefly but ultimately signed the handover. Keys surrendered. Locks confirmed intact. Only minor damage, wall holes from TV mounts and furniture scuffs. By 12:30, truck loaded and gone. Premises empty. No anger surged through me, no triumphant glee, just simple fact. Closure. The end. I stopped at a hardware store on my way home. Rubber gloves, professional mop, rags, pine-scented floor cleaner, disinfectant. I also confirmed with Andrew's recommended painter. Peach-colored walls starting tomorrow at 9. When my key turned in the front gate, the lock moved smoothly, as if the house itself exhaled in relief. I stepped inside and paused in the entryway. The family room stood completely empty, dark indentations on the floor from heavy couch legs, ugly holes in the walls where mounts had been, air stale and heavy with remnants of tension. I threw open every single window. A strong cross breeze swept through from kitchen to garden, stirring curtains, carrying out the last echoes of someone else's chaotic life. I put on gloves and began cleaning with methodical care, dusting shelves and baseboards first, wiping corners where neglect had gathered, scrubbing the floor twice with warm soapy water, attacking the rug with a stiff brush until it looked new again. I polished the framed Savannah riverfront print and rehung it lower, at the exact height comfortable for my eyes, not for trendy decor. By late evening, the kettle sang on the stove. The silence that filled the house was no longer empty. It was golden, rich, and entirely mine. A short, polite doorbell ring. I knew who it was before opening. Come in, Lena, I said at the threshold. Coffee just finished brewing. She stepped inside slowly, eyes taking in the fresh cleanliness, the soft peach glow beginning on one test wall. It's beautiful, she said quietly. Quiet. Warm. We sat at the kitchen table with steaming mugs and a plate of fresh peach pie. I rented a small studio apartment downtown, she began, holding her mug with both hands for warmth. The ceiling is low, upstairs neighbor plays loud music sometimes, but it's mine. I pay for it myself. I've taken full-time work, and I've formally filed for divorce. The pro bono lawyer is handling everything. A warm, quiet, unsentimental pride rose inside me. That is exactly the right path, I said. It will hurt for a while, then it will settle into something solid. He keeps saying you broke our family, she added with a faint, sad smile. I simply stopped feeding the lie, I replied. That's all. Thank you for saying no when I needed it most, she said, placing her hand gently over mine. While you were patching holes in walls, I finally learned to patch the ones in my life. Hearing your own voice is not a luxury, I told her. It is basic order. She paused, then asked softly, can I come over sometimes, as a proper guest? Just tea and conversation. No keys, no staying overnight. That is exactly what family should be now, I smiled. The door is always open for guests. Permanently closed for tenants. We shared a brief, adult embrace at the door. She walked away down the path with a straight back and steady step. No looking back, no hesitation, like a woman who had finally chosen her own pace. Over the following weeks, my new Wednesday 4 p.m. gatherings grew. Neighbors, widows, older women facing similar pressures. Betty arrived first in tears because her son was pushing her to sign over her house for investments. By the end of tea, she left straighter, armed with phrases, lawyer contacts, and courage. Lena visited regularly as a true guest, sharing divorce updates, work victories, small triumphs of independence. One quiet evening, I sat again in my green velvet armchair, remote resting on the end table, television volume set exactly as I desired. No footsteps thundering down the hall. No sudden blackout. No barked orders to leave my own space. I turned the volume up one gentle notch higher, just because I could. Enough, I said aloud to the empty, peaceful room. And in that single word lived everything. Enough strength to set boundaries. Enough wisdom to stop rescuing those who only wanted my resources. Enough life lived to understand the deepest truth. Ownership isn't just keys and deeds. It's the quiet right to choose your silence, your company, and the volume of your own days. The house breathed steadily around me, clean, warm, truly mine again. Outside, the garden darkened gently. Inside, order reigned completely. I adjusted my beige blazer hanging neatly on its hook, set the morning kettle timer, and turned off the lights. The keys on the nightstand were warm, solitary, and powerful. I was finally, fully home, and no longer renting out any part of myself to anyone.